Okay, shall we get started then?
Yes, absolutely. So, can I introduce myself? My name's Jill Scott. I've been working across Greater Manchester for, can I really say, 20 years now and within that time frame, I've done lots of projects around the use of tech. So, for example, I brought BKSB into Manchester during the 14 to 19 reform. I developed some tech tools for modular learning, and I've got quite a passion for it. And I only met Peter. Is it 2 months ago, Peter?
I think it's about 2 months ago. Yes, so we're very much new friends, myself and Jill.
And I was in a session with my colleagues who deliver prison education. And what was so exciting was I see a lot of tech development. I thought this could be really useful for teachers on a number of fronts. So I asked Peter if he would do a session with me, and we think about AI. And I'm absolutely terrified talking about AI, Peter, because quite frankly, it's a moving feast and I can't keep up. But we will do our very best to talk about where we think it is and where it's going to. So, and then how we can help and support teachers to use AI in their own job role. So those are the things we're going to cover, Peter, I think.
That's right. And just a brief introduction for myself. I recognise a fair few names here, so I hope a number of you know me. I've been working in further education since 1986. I don't know if there's anyone older than me in the room who can beat me on that. So when I started teaching, it was literally chalk and talk, and I spent the first few years of my teaching life writing things in chalk on blackboard. And so, you know, now at the other end of my career, we're using artificial intelligence. It just yes, so Jessica, I was teaching before you were born. Yes, things have moved so dramatically. I've been a lecturer, curriculum manager, digital learning director. You might know me from the Blended Learning Consortium, which is something I set up about 7-8 years ago, which over 160 colleges are now involved in. So that's a bit about myself and Jill. And Jill, you want to take over from here?
Yes, absolutely. You're going to be steer the ship for me, Peter. So I'm used to having hold of the mouse, so I'm trusting Peter. This is a test of our relationship. If you haven't done already, can you pop in what you want from the session? We have been reading it and feeding back. There are things about schemes of work. Oh, Jessica, born in 1988. Does that count? I think so, absolutely. So what do you want to get from this session? And we've had quite a bit of input. So I'm going to start just by thinking about AI. Where are we now? Next slide, please, Peter. This is going to be like, yeah, next slide, please. I want to introduce a wizard into this. We had that opening thing about becoming from sorcerer's apprentice to confident conductor. And what we've got here is what I would describe as a confident user of technology. This is Scott, and I did ask Scott, can I actually use you in this presentation? Absolutely fabulous, enthusiastic. And this image is actually from the Association of Colleges National Conference, and the room was rammed. And these are senior leaders. So it was principals, governors, and SLT in the room, and they all wanted to know about AI in FE. Now, that is something I've never seen before. It's always been a bolt-on, always been a bit of part of what we do, not a centre core discussion topic throughout the conference. So, Scott is from Basingstoke, and I also had a conversation with Anthony Bravo, who is his principal. And what came across in that discussion is it's so important that you have the support of senior leaders. And the way that it works is that Scott really is the innovator, and then working with the freedom to actually adapt and use a number of technologies. Next slide, Peter.
Yeah, I would say Scott's probably blushing at the moment, Jill. I don't know if you noticed, but he is in the room.
In the room. Oh, Scott, you can put something in the chat like, "Are you embarrassed?" Yeah. So Scott, sorry to do this to you, and I have to say, Scott, I stole this.
Scott is awesome. I will back on what you're saying.
It might be LinkedIn or X. I can't get used to X not being Twitter. These are the things that Scott is doing in his his role at Basingstoke. And Scott, you can tell me if I'm wrong, put this wrong, but you're allowed to test, try, develop, and then actually Anthony goes, I really like the way that's working. Let's roll that out across the college and let's make that a key focus for us. So already they are starting to think about AI ethics. They're using Teachermatic and trialing it. They're using a number of different tools, and they are also advising the Department of Education. Okay, next slide. And there's a report that's just come out. I can't keep up, by the way, with the amount of reports. If one came out this morning, I thought I can't do that present again. So we'll stick with where we are. And that was about AI in the workplace. So that's another one we might send over to you later. But this is a really good report. And it's basically, it was asking for evidence from what's working and how AI is being developed. And I know Scott has inputted into that. So, and there are other people like Dan Fitzpatrick. So, we do have our wizards out there. And it's basically saying to take advantage of this transformative technology, and it is transformative. We get our approach to it right. What does getting our approach to it right? Good question. Okay. Next slide. So where are we now with AI? Just a bit of an overview. I think we need to know that this is a shift in technology that has moved so fast. So you will all be aware of the news about Sam Altman from OpenAI. And there is a bit of a discussion. There's a debate on this. It's not, fact from fiction is a bit of a difficult one on this. But actually, the functionality of ChatGPT had made a significant leap to the point that it was moving towards general artificial intelligence, which is a big step from generative. So metacognition, I think, is the word that was used. And this underlines the fact that it's moving at such a pace, and it is just at the beginning, not near the end. So you've got the big players like Microsoft, Copilot's just come in. You've got Amazon Web Services, Google. They are moving forward with AI-based products and services at a speed that I don't think we've ever seen before. Have we, Peter? Is this new to you?
No, this is such a rapid, and as someone who's been involved in technology and in education since the 90s and seen massive changes, it is absolutely breakneck speed what's happening now, and what you can do with AI now is quite different to what you could do just a few months ago. And it's really happening very, very quickly. The singularity. That's a very good point.
I had a conversation with somebody who runs a project management consultancy company, and he said, we are transforming what we do in project management, and I'm talking to him about creating some courses actually based on an AI tool to support project management. So it actually is a very different way of working. And he said, I'm starting to really, transform the way that we work. So it's across every area of what we do. Okay, thanks, Peter. So there I am, a teacher of art by trade, thinking, how the heck do I deal with this? Because resistance isn't an option, and I'm a rookie user, if you like, of AI. Where do I start? It's going to impact on data management and institutional processes. A new year start with individual course selection advice for all students without even seeing a tutor. Curriculum activity, course material production, feedback to students, and the way students engage with course materials and assessment. It is transformative. It's access to a knowledge base, access to support, access to a virtual learning coach, and much, much more. So what does that mean for a teacher? And do we need to reimagine the learning contracts implicit between teachers, learners, and institutional providers? And is our role more of being a confident conductor? And it's thinking about the tools and opportunities that we've got with what is provided through AI. So, Peter, now you've told us how long you've been doing this, like forever, and you were also involved in the Blended Learning Consortium. So your experience of the use of technology for learning, I'm going to call you an expert, and I know you're not going to be comfortable with that because AI is such a shifting picture. What do you see as the main ways AI is impacting on education?
Well, that's a very big question, and in so many areas. So I'll just give it a few examples in terms of what's happening at the moment and what I see as things that will be happening in the near future. I'm not going to be doing sort of long future gazing here, but already AI is proving to be extremely useful for teachers around productivity, around time saving, for just doing things quicker, for writing lesson plans, for writing schemes of work, and I'll be showing examples of that using Teachermatic later. I think it brings a lot of creativity to a teacher as well, which does sound a little bit paradoxical. But what I find when I used to be a psychology teacher many years ago, and so I still sort of play around with tools in terms of how would I've used this as a psychology teacher, and I find it gives me creative new ideas. So there's that side of it in terms of how it can help teachers with productivity, with creativity. It's also, in terms of when you bring big data and AI together, it can be very powerful at helping predict performance of learners, at helping identify when a learner is struggling, and by looking at patterns around all the different ways in which we capture data around learners, when they come into college, when they scan their cards or use the learning centres, looking at their attendance, looking at how they're performing in class on assignments, etc. This gives a huge amount of data that AI can look at and analyse and can help us make predictions. It can help with the personalisation of learning. So, I mean, a tool which started doing this quite early is SentryTech, where that uses AI to identify learning preferences. What kind, do learners prefer to study via text-based materials, video-based materials, and will personalise the learning according to that. It will identify if a learner is struggling on a particular topic and will give them more content around that. So that kind of personalisation is very useful. Another area in which AI is starting to impact is simulations, that you can use AI to simulate, say, historical characters and interview them and get into conversations with them. How we can build images with tools like DALL-E, and we can use AI video tools to create new media that is completely unique. Another thing that's starting to happen, and I've seen some really interesting examples of this, and I only think this is going to grow, which is AI-driven virtual tutors. A tutor that a student can talk to and ask questions of if they're struggling with a particular topic. And that tutor can learn about that student and can learn to adjust to that student's needs and really give them a very personalised experience. So, assessment. Now, the impact of AI on assessment is going to be huge, and I think we've only just started to scratch the surface of this. So, for example, we're already seeing that learners can cheat using AI potentially, but they can use AI to ChatGPT. Yeah, you want to come in there, Jill?
Yeah, I was going to mention the work that AFTAB's been doing at Bolton as well, with
absolutely,
that learner support activity and that big data, but also the personalisation. So there's actually understanding, and that's in an interesting model which he calls a localized large language model, which is a sort of contained model where it's not open to the huge chat GPT world. It's actually within a contained knowledge base. So there's some interesting sort of dialogue around that. Shall we move on to the next question? Do you think?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that's my question, because what I'm thinking about, this sort of chat GPT anxieties around bias and those kind of conversations that are happening now. Is AI a force for good or bad in education, Peter? Big one.
Right. Well, again, another big question there. I think, like any technology, can be used for good means or for bad means, and AI is no different to that. And in fact, there are many people who, very creditable scientists who are saying that AI presents an existential threat to humanity, the kind of the Terminator type scenario, and that is perhaps a very real possibility in the future. I think a remote possibility, but possibly a real one. Depends on how quickly we learn how to manage and control AI and what international sorts of standards we put on it, etc. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that too much. I'm going to talk about in education. So as a force for good, I think it's a massive potential for good in terms of time saving, in terms of for staff well-being. That teachers are so overworked, so overwhelmed. When I was last teaching full time, I taught 19, 20 hours a week. Teachers are now teaching 24, 25 hours a week. I have no idea how you do it, those of you that are full-time teachers. I was working evenings and weekends. And so as a well-being tool, and this is the approach that Milton Keynes College are very much taking with AI as a tool to improve staff well-being, as a tool for creativity, giving you new ideas for doing things, as a tool for creating engaging activities. AI is definitely a tool for good. However, there are certainly some potentials of being a tool for bad as well. So we're already aware that it is being used to cheat. People are writing their essays and their assignments using ChatGPT. A real concern of mine that I don't see being discussed very often is digital divide, that the good AI tools cost money. And so what we're going to see increasingly is that the students from the less affluent socioeconomic backgrounds are only going to be able to get access to the free AI tools, and they already are significantly inferior to the paid for versions. I'm currently, in my other sort of hat on, writing a digital blended learning strategy in Jordan for the Ministry of Education there. So I've been spending quite a lot of time in schools in Jordan, and I think this is going to only increase the international digital divide. That kids in developing countries don't have mobile phones, they don't have access to data, they don't have access to these sorts of tools. And with the skills in AI are going to become increasingly important in the global digital economy, a lot of young people are not going to have access to learn how to do these things. So that's another negative that we need to think about how we're going to address that digital divide, both within the UK and also internationally. And something I've not actually seen any cases of this in colleges and schools and universities, but I bet it's already happening, is AI being used for bullying. I can envisage people producing deep fakes of students that they want to pick on and have them saying things and doing things. And that's, other ways in which it's a tool for bad. How AI can be used to promote conspiracy theories, how it can be used to attack democracy with all these bots churning stuff out. And I think in education, we have to be really aware of that and looking at how we build that into what we're teaching and how we teach students to evaluate information they're finding, to look at where it's coming from, to look at is it fake news, etc., to look at is it deep fakes. So there's anything you would add to that, Jill?
No, I think you've touched on most of the things. That digital divide came up. I was in a meeting this week at the Manchester City Council. We were talking about digital inclusion, and AI was top of the agenda. It's just that it is going to become or worsen the existing digital divide if we don't do something about it. And I think you've touched on the importance of actually also building the capacity of our students to become digitally capable agents, being able to actually analyze and look at the information in a critical way. So actually we really do need to integrate that into the teaching and learning of students. So next question. How can teachers become confident? So we've got Scott in the room, absolutely fabulous. Dan Fitzpatrick, a star. Peter, you're an expert, so quite comfortable and confident, but we're not all like that. I'm an art and design teacher. I'm thinking, how do I actually confidently use AI in my own role. You talked about saving time. The more time you save from the paperwork side of things, you've got more time for students. How do I actually do this, and where do I start? Because I'm a rookie. So it's kind of like, over to you, Peter.
Okay, so I'm now going to, I'm afraid, sort of unapologetically take most of my examples now from Teachermatic, because this is what I've been working on very much for the last year or so with some colleagues building this platform. For those of you that don't know Teachermatic, this is a platform, an AI platform for teachers that was launched in April. It's already been adopted by around 70 colleges, so it's already been used in around a quarter of the FE community. It's growing quickly, and Teachermatic has been designed to make AI very easy to use for teachers. When I first saw ChatGPT over a year ago, it was a year last summer, when it was hiding around in some of the dark corners of the internet, I realised when I started playing with it that this was the most unbelievable, incredible new technology, that it would be incredibly powerful for teachers, but at the same time, to do some of the clever stuff that you can do with ChatGPT, you have to be a real expert at prompt engineering. And having worked in supporting teachers in adopting new technologies, I'll come to that question later, Jenny. I realised that we need a tool that teachers can use to make it very accessible. So that's why we built Teachermatic. And in terms of Jill's question around how can teachers engage, and in terms of this kind of analogy around an orchestra, one way to look at Teachermatic is these different things that we call generators are a bit like the different instruments in an orchestra. So we've built generators that will use AI to do a whole range of different activities. So for example, if I want some classroom questions, I click on that. And if I want some classroom questions, perhaps on Piaget as a developmental psychologist, and I want to maybe choose what aspects of Bloom's taxonomy I want to include in that, it's as easy as that. And this is making AI very easy to use. You see quickly, immediately got some classroom questions that a teacher of psychology can take into the classroom to kick off a debate. So this is the way in which the teacher can become that conductor of the orchestra without being an expert musician, as it were. They don't have to know all the musical theory. They don't have to know about key signatures and etc. because it does it all for them. So I think that is I'd like to answer that question there, Jill.
Just take myself off mic. We did have a question. Are you okay to take a question?
Yeah, absolutely, Jill. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a question here. Looks great, however, its use of Bloom's taxonomy does not align well with Ofsted's focus on the use of up-to-date and pertinent research. So,
well, we've got Bloom's taxonomy because so many colleges asked for it. We've also built Rosenshine's principles into the generators as well, and we are sort of open. You know, the technology that we build in is very much based on what we get requested from the colleges, and the colleges did ask us for Bloom's taxonomy. Recently we've also been asked for Rosenshine. I did see a question on how much. It's basically £20 per teacher per year is what it's going to cost there. So shall I move on, Jill, or is there any more questions?
Yeah. I'll pick some of these questions up as we go along. But how can AI support a teacher in planning, Peter?
Right. Okay. So again, I'm going to show you how this can be done with Teachermatic. And so say as a teacher, normally your planning process will begin with a scheme of work. And so there's a generator in Teachermatic that will build a scheme of work for you. So I'm starting off, I won't all be examples from psychology, but if I wanted to build a scheme of work for A-level psychology, I put that in for a course title. I can put in a link to the specification there on the website, click on generate, and then the AI will build a 30 session scheme of work. So that's an example of the planning side, and there's certainly emerging evidence on the time saving that this AI is proving that for teachers. So we found that across the community of teachers using Teachermatic, the average time saving is 3.8 hours. And I know that Scott at Basingstoke, adding Bard and other tools as well, are getting an average time saving of 5.5 hours. So a massive saving in terms of planning activities. And then moving on, you've done your scheme of work. You then want to do your lesson plans. So I've taken one of the topics from that scheme of work, the biological basis of mental orders. And if I want to do a lesson plan for that, I simply put in how many minutes, I put in what I want to focus on that. I can identify particular learning needs. I can use Bloom's taxonomy. And I think where this is useful is it really helps with identifying levels. So if you're doing a level 2 course, you're going to be focusing on knowledge and comprehension. If you're going level 3 and 4, you're bringing in some of the higher order skills. You click on the generate button, and then the AI can build in about 20 seconds a excellent lesson plan with the learning objectives, the lesson outcome line there. How you're going to support those particular learning needs that we've mentioned. And these can be exported in Word and in PDF format if required. I think we'll move on to the next question there. So that hopefully gives examples of how AI can be a really useful tool for teachers in planning. Did you have anything to add to that, actually, Jill, before I move on?
No, I think that covered it. There was a question about, can you use a limited data set? So you're actually looking at your own data set to create, so you're not using, can we use our own
yes,
story within precise curriculum bounds? I think you touched on that, actually.
Yes, I will be. So for example, you see here with the scheme of work, you can upload, if you've got a course specification or you've written your own course, you can upload a file and it will just build a scheme of work around what's on that file. And we have that built into a lot of the generators on Teachermatic, which so you can build things around your own existing resources. I think I saw a comment there around the templates for schemes of work. Yes, these are produced as a general, you can export this as a Word document, and you would probably then be doing some copying and pasting from that Word document.
Brilliant, that's great.
Into your scheme of work.
There is a big question from Judy around culture and leadership, and I'll pick that up towards the end, if that's okay, Judy.
That's absolutely fine, yeah.
Because I think some of these big questions are things to start taking forward.
Okay.
Right. How can AI support a teacher in preparing teaching and learning activities and resources for a lesson? Because you talked about that creativity. And one of the things I was struck by, and we've been sort of experimenting with asking some creative questions, and I like the idea of the sort of interviewing somebody from history, and we've been playing around with that a little bit. So could you just give us some ideas on that, Peter, how you can sort of generate some learning activities that are innovative and exciting?
Absolutely. So we built some really nice prompts again, and this saves the teachers from having to learn and understand all that prompt engineering. So say you're a maths teacher and you want some learning activities around fractions. All you got to do is put in fractions as your topics. Again, if you've got your fractions handout and guides or whatever, you can upload those and it will focus on the information, that kind of closed area option if you want to do it that way. You specified a number of activities, click on generate, you see what the AI has done here. it's giving the maths teacher 5 different ideas for group work that you can do. So a fraction race, split the class into 2 teams and give each team a set of fraction cards, and the teams have to race each other. Fraction bingo, make a bingo card with fractions on, etc. A fractions jeopardy, fractions exploration. So the AI can very quickly, and if I click on regenerate, it'll just give me another 5 learning activities. So it's a fabulous creativity tool just for if you're trying to think of different ways of doing something. So it's come up with a scavenger hunt and a scramble as new ideas there, a matching game. So it can just generate you an endless sequence of ideas for how you can deliver learning activities. A similar tool is if you want some classroom questions, maybe to start a class off, to generate an initial discussion around a topic. And I'm thinking here about a teacher in sports, and I did see the name of one of my ex-colleagues from Heart of Worcester who used to teach sports. And so I'm thinking about, a sports teacher teaching a lesson around a sports coach, perhaps working in a gym, doing an individual exercise plan for a client. What questions could you ask the group to kick off that discussion? So again, you can upload a file to do that. You can use the Bloom's taxonomy to select the sort of cognitive domains you want to cover. We've got a complexity slider in a lot of these generators, which will help you determine how, the kind of the level, this is sort of notionally around level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 1 entry level. And this gives you some questions. How can a sports coach employ a generalized exercise plan? How can they show an example of an exercise plan that can be used? What steps can a coach use to interpret and modify an exercise plan? So it's giving you lots of ideas. What strategies can a sports coach motivate a client to practice their exercise plan? It gives you some nice ideas. And again, you can regenerate those if you want some more. And it will give you, the AI's very quickly producing a whole load of more ideas. So for me, as an ex-teacher, this creativity is incredible because there's a danger. I taught psychology for about 15 years or so. And when you're teaching that same lesson, maybe twice a year for 15 years, you can't help but go onto autopilot. You're just repeating a script to a degree. And the way to freshen up your teaching is using this AI to give you new ideas for new activities and things like that. So this is another way you can come up with project ideas. So we've got a generator here which generates project ideas. So I'm thinking here of an early years teacher, maybe doing a project with some level 3 students around setting up a play group. So you just put that in there. And you see it's come up with some really nice projects. So it's getting students to design a comprehensive curriculum for a play group and groups, getting to develop a marketing strategy for a play group, getting them to design what an ideal playgroup facility might look like, developing a training program for playgroup, and creating resources for parents to engage. So again, the AI is coming up with some fabulous creative ideas for things that you can do in class. I'll move on.
Thank you very much, Peter. I've got some interesting questions about crosswords. We've been trying to get ChatGPT to do crosswords. It's been an interesting journey with that, but I like there's an answer to the question. I've used the glossary generator to make crosswords to input into another online crossword maker, and I quite like the fact.
I love that.
What a nice thing to do. It's almost like when you've got your set of tools, we talked about those tools and being a conductor. It's almost like this is one of the tools in your toolbox as a teacher. And if you can integrate the use of other things that you use in a really innovative way, there are some things, aren't they, already embedded, isn't there, like Cahoots or...
Yeah, and I'm just about to show that, absolutely. But it's great to see these ideas, which is, taking Jill's idea about the sorcerer's apprentice and the conductor, where people are, getting the different parts of the orchestra playing together using different tools and bringing them together, the glossary and the crossword and ChatGPT. So I didn't cut the other part, but someone was combining that with another tool. So next question, Jill.
Okay, we want on this next one. Move on, Peter. We've done that one.
No,
Preparing.
no, yeah, sorry, that's the one.
Done
Yeah,
that one. Done that one. Assessment. Assessment's a big one, isn't it? It's when it comes to AI and assessment. Can I just say I don't think the AI detection tools throw up false positives. Not great. But we're talking about assessments and creating assessments, Peter, from a
yeah.
teacher.
First, let's have a bit of a chat about the big picture on assessment. So let's put the thing up, because I think this is such a controversial area. I mean, we're being asked to build assessment tools that will do all your marking for you. So let's look at that first and think about, now that's doable, and we are looking at doing that. When we were first asked about that, I was quite skeptical and quite anti it, but we get asked by so many teachers to build a marking tool, and I get the reason that, you know, I remember spending all day Sunday with a massive pile of assignments on the table and slowly working through them. If you can get AI to do that, that's wonderful. However, the other side of that, what's the student going to think about that? When you're a student, you write an assignment for your teacher. You're writing with the expectation that teacher is going to mark that assignment. And it's a completely different psychological situation where you've got a bot marking that assignment. And then there's the other nightmare scenario where you've got a student on the one hand writing an assignment with ChatGPT and the teacher marking the assignment with ChatGPT. And there's not a human brain anywhere in the process. We don't want to get there. So what can we do about that? Well, I've come round to an idea, which is we could do something a bit like IVing, where we build a tool which will do the marking, and we are very much looking at that with Teachermatic. And each college will have to come up with its own policy. I think we've got to be very open with students about this. And then we get the AI to mark all 20 students in a class, and then the teacher samples maybe 5 of those randomly and marks 5 of them. And I'm coming around that there are some real advantages. Now, one advantage, I could sit and talk for an hour on this because I've done a lot of thinking on it, but one real example is bias. As teachers, we can't help but have unconscious biases about our students. Those may be based on gender, on ethnicity, on social class, on I don't like that student's face, all sorts of things. You know, it's how, you know, we might not even be conscious why we've got those biases, and those affect how we mark. There's a lot of research out there that shows that. And so AI won't have those kind of biases. If you just copy and paste the student's work, it will be a very objective marker. So that kind of got me thinking, yeah, that's something that we can do. But what I want to actually, I mean, Jill, do you have anything to add to that before I show some examples?
No, I think it is an absolute utter minefield. And there's something about students, again, this digital divide, those students that are confident, competent, have access to ChatGPT, can give it those prompts and produce work that you cannot tell has been created by a chatbot. What do you do? How do you assess? And those are some of the bigger questions, not for today, Peter, because we'd be here all day.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think hold on to that question, and it's one to take forward into the future.
Yeah. And the awarding bodies always move at glacial pace as well, in terms of it, and how they're going to keep up with what's happening. That really worries me. So let me show you some of what Teachermatic can do about assessment, because now the multiple choice question generator is the most used generator on Teachermatic, which kind of surprised me at first. But I think the reason for that is that the reason why multiple choice questions haven't been used that much in FE is because they take so damn long to write. If you want to write 10 multiple choice questions, it takes you an hour. With Teachermatic, you can do it in less than a minute. So imagine you're a construction teacher and you want some questions around building regulations, English ones. You just put that in, you press on generate, and bang, instantly you've got all of these questions. Now, not only do you have those questions, and this is, you know, what Teachermatic I think does that you can't really do very easily with ChatGPT, and the advantage of having a pre-programmed platform like this can then be exported in all sorts of different formats. So you can export this in PDF or in Word. If you use Moodle, you can use the GIF format. And so that means it produces a flat text file that you can go to a multiple choice question tool in Moodle and just import that flat file, and bang, you've got your 10 multiple choice questions. That takes forever to do in a BLE. We can also export into Blackboard and Canvas using that. And many of you probably use tools like Kahoot and Quizzes, and it can be exported as a CSV file in a format that Kahoot and Quizzes can do. I'll hold that question there, Jill. So that's the sort of exports. And if you use Microsoft Forms, if you export this as a Word document, you can then import that directly into Microsoft Forms, and it will. This is the format that Forms understands, and Forms will turn that straight away into a Microsoft Forms quiz. Put that in your Teams site, it will track that. So think if you've got that in your VLE or in Teams, the big data that you're generating, that you can track in your progress. So if you can have a multiple choice quiz at the end of every lesson, or as homework for every lesson, or at the start of every lesson to check on learning from last week. If you're doing that through Teams or through your VLE, you're generating massive amounts of data that by using Power BI and similar tools, you can generate some amazingly complex and deep reports. You can get the AI working on that data to look at predicting if a student's performance suddenly drops off, the AI can pick that up and alert personal tutors this student might be struggling, have a word with them. That can improve retention. So let me just quickly move on. You can also, using the multiple choice tool, put in a URL. So I've gone to a website on building regulations, and so what the tool has done here is it's quizzed that website and come up with multiple choice questions around that. And similarly, like before, you can upload your handout, and that does the walled garden AI, where it just looks at the information on your favorite handout on building regulations and does that. The next tool I'm going to show you is, this is our first gentle foray into marking with Teachermatic, where we've created what we call the SPAG Plus feedback. And with this, you can upload a student's work, if it's in Word document or PDF, or you can copy and paste it. So I've just actually copied and pasted an email that I sent out for onboarding, and I've put a few spelling mistakes in. I'm perfectly good at creating my own spelling mistakes anyway, naturally. And so I got the SPAG feedback to give a report on that. So you see it spotted a few spelling errors, few instead of few. I did a typo on typos, and so it's picked up these spelling errors that I put in there. It's saying the grammar is mostly correct, but there are a few examples where it's picked up poor grammar that I put in. It's spotted a few punctuation errors, and it's also talked about the clarity of my writing style here. So we're doing some initial marking, and using Teachermatic SPAG feedback, you can do some initial marking of your students' work like that. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint.
So, Peter, we've explored a few of the tools. I've got some questions as well, so we'll have to leave some time for questions, and I realise what time.
Well, should we take a few questions now? And
yeah, maybe.
Take a few questions, and then I'll show one more.
Oh, right. Okay. Shall I go with the big question from Judy? Because Judy, this is such a massive question you asked. I'm going to do this first, and then we'll go to the more specifics. We went through such disruptive changes through COVID and lockdown, and it's not been as transformative as it might have been across the sector. We think, I suppose this is for both of us really, that there is now an appetite for change. I would say when I was at the AOC National Conference with senior leaders, I have never seen digital writ so large because of AI. So there's something about the two things together. There's tech for learning and the recognition that the world of work has changed. And if you work in FE, shouldn't we be preparing our young people and adults for the world of work? And therefore, we have to take this agenda forward as a sector. And I think that's dawned on the SLT. And you've got Anthony Bravo at Basingstoke, who's a great sort of supporter of the work that his teachers are doing. The same with Bolton and what Aftab's doing on his use of AI. So you've got almost those leadership teams that support this. But Peter, do you feel there is almost a culture change now, and that it will be easier to have those conversations?
I've never seen senior leaders so engaged in digital. And as someone who's been trying to push digital in colleges for well over 25 years plus, I was at the AOC conference, and our stand was absolutely rammed with principals who wanted to find out about what we were doing. They were queuing up, and I wasn't expecting that. There were 3 breakout sessions about teacher-matic and AI, which was just great to see that. And if you think to get a breakout session at the AOC is very difficult, and teacher-matic has only been running since April. So I'm definitely seeing senior leaders engaging. Now, that doesn't mean that for all of your senior leaders, that might be quite different in your colleges, but what I'm picking up as a group, and they do tend to move in groups, senior leaders, and I did hear that those that went to the dinners and the social activities, there was a lot more discussion. I guess one thing that's appealing to senior leaders is the way that this can be transformative across a college, and can if you bring in AI in, and that can reduce staff workload. I certainly heard comments like, we can't pay staff more, but this is something we can do to improve their lives, from one senior leader. And I heard another senior leader talking about, I've got these changes that I want to implement. This will, to improve teaching and learning in the college, this will give us that space to make these changes, to create new activities. So, yeah, I can't guarantee that's for every college, but I certainly, I've never seen senior leaders engaging more.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Peter. It does feel like a genuine sea change, and it was like we recognise that students need to have a sense of place and belonging, and sometimes the college environment is the safest place for them. So it's almost like that is, a lot of our college serve communities where there's high levels of deprivation. So I think the college and the community of the college and the physical place needs to be there, as well as the virtual place. But going back to that saving teacher time, just thinking, Peter, how can the tools be used together to sort of coherence? And I know that some colleges are really taking that forward now.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Gower College Swansea here. I don't know if there's anybody in the room from Gower College Swansea, and Leanne Howe, who's leading on this, has really put in together a very interesting approach, where they are kind of doing that conductor approach. And for new courses, they've got a kind of a de facto start position that if a teacher is new to delivering a course, or it's a new teacher, that they will use the AI to start off creating a scheme of work. They will then, so I think this is the scheme of work, they will then take each session and go on to use the AI to build a lesson plan from that scheme of work. And then, having done the lesson plan, use some of these other tools, such as the multiple choice questions, classroom questions, learning activities, discussion topics, analogy makers, to build resources, activities for those lessons. So you can be a real joined up thinking, where the teacher is using that AI both to save time and to be creativity. And that's not taking the teacher out of the picture in any way, because the teacher then chooses. They take these ideas and they run with them. They expand upon them, etc. So yeah, I think that's the analogy I would make there. Is there anything you would add to that, Jill?
Yeah, I just think there was a conversation we were having, and this was the CEO with the consultancy firm. He said, what I really like is I'm not starting with a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly.
I can actually get something to start and work with. And there was a question here about collaboration. Wouldn't it be great to peer review your proposed scheme of learning, your scheme of work, with your colleagues that you've done through teacher-matic? Wouldn't it be great to actually say, well, do you want to do that lesson? I don't know how much, but do we have time for that normally, is my question. Or would you be working on your own, working away? So I think there's something about, if you've got time, you've got more time to peer review. So it's all that thinking about how You've not got a blank sheet in front of you or an empty form. You've actually got something to get you started. You may change it, you may adapt it. You are, as the teacher, if you like, this is what we've been looking at it. It might actually make you think even more about, I'll tweak that, I'll change that. Wouldn't it be better if? So that's how we've been using it anyway.
Yeah, and that's I've just flagged this up, and something that that's exactly what Teachamatic allows you to do. So a teacher, they produce a lesson plan on Teachamatic, they can save that into their saved area, and then using this is a new function. So those of you using Teachamatic, we've only put this out a week or so ago. You can now share resources with your colleagues. So that supports that kind of peer reviewing process.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. How often do you have time to do that? Whereas if you can do something fairly quickly, send it over to a colleague, give me some feedback. Could be part of the coaching. There was a question as well before and I've realised we're short on time here, Peter, around self-assessment, and can it be used as a self-assessment tool? Are we there yet with it, or is it something?
Yes, we do have some activities. We've got a course improvement generator where you can put in course title, and it will give you some ideas of improving that. We've got we've got some appraisal and coaching generators. We've got smart targets, and again, those can be used in self-assessment. So a range of tools that can feed into that process. Absolutely.
Another important question just come up there around IP. Please.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. There are no laws about this at the moment. It's too new for them to be any actual legislation. I've done some digging around this. I spoke to JISC about this. The general legal opinion on the IP of things that you've got out of AI is that the person who pays for the tool owns the IP. So yes, as a college, if you're paying for an AI tool like Teachamatic, you own what comes out of it. But that's yet to be properly established. There haven't been any cases yet where this has been challenged. So yeah.
I'm just glad I'm not in a visual arts context at the moment, or music, because this sort of generated
minefield.
Oh, it's a minefield. Another quick one that I think we need to move on to really is impact. It's all about impact. What impacts have we had so far?
Yeah, well, it's early days. I'm seeing some lovely comments about people using Teachamatic, and I'm going to answer some of these other questions. We've done a survey of users. We got 3.8 hours per week. So in terms of time saving, that's massive. And Scott at Basingstoke, they bettered that average thing by going to 5.5 hours per week. And I know that we can still improve upon that as people get more confident in using this technology. It is an absolute game changer for staff well-being. What stunned me, we then went on to ask, what do you do with that time? And the options like more time relaxing, thank you, Helen, more time relaxing, more time supporting students, more time creating activities. And most of the teachers who reported that they saved a lot of time, I was a bit sad for them. I thought, oh, for heaven's sake, you're so busy, put your feet up, But no, they were using that time to support students, for creating new resources. And that just speaks so much about the professionalism of colleagues in education. My heart and admiration goes out to people at the chalk face, to term from my early years. So impact on success. Well, I heard an interesting case study from Deb Miller, who was, I'm sure many of you know Deb Miller from Hull College, previously at Grimsby, and they're big users of Teachamatic. And she gave a case of where a teacher had previously had a 52% success rate on a short course they were delivering. She got that teacher to rebuild that course with Teachamatic, and the success rate went to 100%. So that's just one-off thing. I can't say that's massively scientific evidence, but it's still early days. most of the colleges using AI, Teachamatic or AI in general, will only have been using it since September. So we've only really got a term worth of kind of meaningful activity. We have a few colleges that were using Teachamatic from April, but it's very small scale stuff. We're getting some very excellent anecdotal feedback, but not the not the kind of the data that we need yet for proving anything.
We've got a few more questions. Can I just say, any questions we don't answer, we'll respond to them and put them in a document so that everybody can see them. Peter, we'll put them the QA.
Yeah. I keep seeing people asking about the price of Teachamatic. It's currently £20 per teacher per year, if you're buying it as a college.
And I think this must be from Prison Education. Can it be whitelisted? Maybe
it is used. One of them. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this because you know a little bit about the use in your organisation, don't you, Jill?
Yeah, I was just going to say in Novus, because teachers can have access off-site to be planning and doing their learning. So I think that's a great, they're using it as a teacher preparation tool. I think it's something that, the reason we've particularly used it in prison education is really to raise the general standard across. We have a lot of challenges around capacity and staffing, and to actually just have a minimum good standard is actually quite difficult when you've got high churn. So I think that actually supporting teachers to be the very best they can be under difficult circumstances with a changing workforce, it is always quite difficult, and it does support improving quality. And my background, as everybody will know, or maybe not know, is I've been in the quality department of the LTE group for the last 10 years. So it's actually all about quality education. And I'm so glad, Peter, that we've had this conversation, because I think this is about improving what we do for learners. And if you want to get in touch with myself or Peter directly after this session, Peter will do something about these questions because we've just
I'll just whiz through some of them now. Can it produce graphics? We've got a PowerPoint generator that puts images in. Is there a free trial period? If you want a trial account, send me an email and I can share something with you. There's my email address there. Concerned about whether anything we share would then become available to others. No, it's all a walled garden. So Teachamatic, anything you put in, it's not like general chat GPT, and that's another advantage of it. It doesn't go beyond Teachamatic. And it's stored on a server for 30 days. That server is completely sealed and then gets deleted.
Yeah, and one of the things, Peter, we might want to have, when I talked to Peter, I said, Peter, are you open to change and develop this as we go? And absolutely, it's almost like this is created by teachers for teachers.
Absolutely. When we launched in April with 18 generators, it had none of those export options. We've got 47 generators now. It is designed by the FE community, basically. What we've built has been what teachers have asked for, and we've worked with them to build it.
Oh, thank you very much, Peter. It's been a great session. And is there anything else? I do realise we are a couple of minutes over, but I think we should, unless you want to pick up on any more of the
I'm just scrolling through to see if there someone's saying, would it take away from collaboration with colleagues? I would say, I've shown you the share function. I think it can improve collaboration with colleagues, potentially, where you can share things that you've developed using that AI.
I can see it in a coaching session as well, Peter, that kind of conversation, have a go at it. Here's something, what do you think about it? A bit of critical analysis.
Well, we do have a coaching generator, Jill, which will do your coaching prompts. If you want to do a coaching session, for example, or supporting a teacher on using effective formative assessments, it uses the GROW model and writes all the prompts for you around that. So there's all the prompts. If you're a manager working with a teacher, those are the questions that you ask that teacher using the GROW model. But again, I hope you can see the time saving that produces for the coach.
So one of the things I think might be useful, Peter, going forward, and just let us know, is would it be useful to sort of have a Teachamatic community, and that we do, occasional touch base sessions with what people are doing, how they're using it. I think that would be lovely, actually. Because
these questions weren't planted. Yeah, I probably haven't told you this. We have a Teachermatic community.
you do.
And
Oh,
yes,
right.
that's very much part of how we work. And you know, from those of you that know me from the Blended Learning Consortium, that was very much a community-based thing. So yeah, we have an area on the EdTech community team site where people can discuss stuff. We also have termly meetings where people present and share best practice, and we are already tentatively planning in the summer a Teachermatic conference, where we will bring together people to share what they're doing in their college with Teachermatic, and learn from each other. And with new colleges, when they come into Teachermatic, we connect a lot of them with some of the more experienced, the ones who've been using it for a few months. So there's a lot of, you know, very much build sharing best practice into that. I'm going to praise Scott again, because Scott has been so proactive in this, and he's you know, shown other colleges Teachermatic, and brought, you know, personally he's brought in a number of colleges into the Teachermatic world from his both meaning to, and also just from him showcasing it. And he might not be aware of that, where people said, I've seen Scott showing this and it looks great. So big thanks, Scott, again.
Oh, some lovely positive feedback for us there, Peter, for you on Teachermatic, and thank you.
Oh, well, that's lovely to hear. So yeah, so do keep in touch if you've got any questions. If you'd like to have a trial feedback, a trial log on, I'll get one set up for you and send it out to you early next week. Just send me an email. Have a wonderful weekend, and do your best to relax. And I hope you've all found that useful. It's been, and thank you so much, Jill. It's great meeting someone like Jill, who you've just built that empathy with very quickly.
You feel like an old friend already.
Yeah, cheers, Ed.
Okay.
Peter. Take care, everybody.
And
we'll be sharing the recording of this as well. So if you want to share it with your colleagues, we'll be emailing it out to you. Cheers, and everybody, take care.